Hey guys, and welcome to the Backwater Entrepreneur Podcast and Show, the podcast that guides your business from the backwaters to the global marketplace. My name is Jack, and I'm your host on this podcast that is intended for every entrepreneur, every business, every employee working for a business that is especially targeting the global marketplace and working online. This is a podcast that will set your mindset into the mindset of an entrepreneur, what it takes to be an entrepreneur, that it will hopefully improve your way of life and the way that you do business, and possibly even improve your business. This is episode number 8, and in this episode, I want to talk to you about the difference between kind of the two most common terms today. Specifically, I want to talk to you about the difference between a normal business, a normal entrepreneurship, and a startup. A startup is a term that in today's world has overwhelmingly been used by almost everybody. Everybody today is having a startup, starting a startup, owning a startup, failing a startup, whatever it is, it's a startup. Well, not every business is a startup. So this doesn't mean that startups are not businesses and that people who are running startups are not entrepreneurs. It just means that not every business, not every entrepreneur is also a startup. So for example, I do not consider my business a startup. Why? Because a startup has specific features. Most importantly, a startup is a business venture when you are creating new, innovative, and scalable products or services that you're selling to the online market, to your local audience, to anybody. But the key to a startup is scalability and especially exponential growth. So a startup doesn't need to be only a product. It is usually either a software product or a specific, physical product that you are producing, solving somebody's problem, and ultimately hoping to, exponentially grow in the sense that you are producing one product or service and then selling it to 5, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 million people that can use it at the same time. So the point of a startup is exponential growth. And not every business can have exponential growth. So basically, for example, if you're in a service model, which means that you are servicing a client whereby your services are unique to each client and basically mean that you have to figuratively push a button for every client in order to get paid, that is not scalable. I mean, that is scalable, but not in the sense of exponential scalability, because you will have to hire an exponential number of employees to service an exponential number of customers. So in that sense, it's not that scalable. And that's not a startup. So you don't have a marketing agency doing marketing campaigns as a startup. You can have a marketing software that solves a particular problem within marketing, such as, email tools, add-ons, CRMs, whatever it is. Those can be a startup in that sense, but not running campaigns for clients, servicing their strategies, producing animation explainer videos in that sense. So that is not a startup by far. That doesn't mean that your business shouldn't be profitable, that your business is somehow under the, or two ranks below of someone who owns a startup. Why? By the way, a fact of life, 95% of startups fail. Only 5% who succeed can, say they are a success, they swim in cash until they sell their companies and then start probably again. Most startups I know are not run for, I don't know, a number of years, in the sense that, startups will not eventually be a family business owned for 25 years, usually. Most startups will have some sort of an exit, a selling point, some sort of exit strategy in that sense. But it doesn't mean that your business, which is not a startup, shouldn't be a success. Basically, most businesses have a much better chance to succeed than startups themselves. Now, I'm not saying that one is good and one is bad. I'm saying that it's not the same. And we shouldn't call everything a startup. We shouldn't call everybody a startup owner. And that's not a bad thing. That's the only point of this episode. Now, I did some research, and I do have an interesting surprise for you in this episode. So basically, I had a chance to talk to Mr. Wiley Larsen, who is a professor at Arizona State University, who I had an extreme pleasure of listening on a lecture in a nearby town a couple of weeks ago. And they do amazing things. The whole complete Arizona State University has a complete program that kind of helps push startups from universities. By that I mean they take somebody who's doing research, seeing if that research has any kind of business potential, and then pairing them off with mentors and people who can help them out in creating that research, that idea, into a business model. And by doing so, the whole university has a very sustainable program of generating startup companies from very prospective students, and helping them become entrepreneurs, helping them become businessmen, and making them a success by offering them everything, the whole ecosystem of kind of winding up their business model, testing it out, and then helping them create a business right out of school. And this is something I hope will, is achievable in many other countries and not just the US. But I did ask Wiley about the differences between entrepreneurs and startups, and I want you to hear that conversation right now. Wiley Larsen, a teacher at Arizona University, and it was a great lecture about startups and entrepreneurship and building startups, science-based startups from universities. So for the podcast, so what is the main difference, in your opinion, between startups and other businesses or entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And thanks for coming to the lecture. I think the pool of entrepreneurs is a very, very large pool, and startups are kind of a part of that larger pool of entrepreneurs. We talk about this a lot at the Arizona State University. We teach the entrepreneurial mindset, which means that we're teaching problem-solving skills to our students. So when I think of an entrepreneur, I'm thinking of somebody who is creative about solving problems. And it doesn't have to be a startup to solve that problem. Having that entrepreneurial mindset is having that urge and that desire to go out and try to solve problems and find solutions for people. Now, when you have a startup, that's a little bit different. A startup is formalizing that problem solving or that solution and saying, I'm going to form a company and start up this company, or even in a big industrial company, you can have startup units within those big industries like Intel and IBM and Microsoft that are trying to solve new problems that could be business lines of business. So I think they're kind of one and the same, but I think you can be an entrepreneur without having a startup.
Does every startup basically need a product developed instead of a service?
Oh no, I think an entrepreneur can be a service-based startup as well. Yes,
Okay.
a startup can be service-based as well. I tend to go towards products because I see lots of products at the university.
Okay, and one final question. You talked mostly about raising money and between grants and investments.
Yep.
What is the percentage between most startups in your your university? So the ones that come from your university. So whether they tend to do mostly grants versus investments, angels, whatever.
Yeah, I would say almost all of them are actively seeking grants. And most of them have some success, at least getting small grants. It is much more rare, much harder to get investment dollars, private investment dollars. So of all the startups that I see, probably 90% will get some type of competition money or some type of grant, but probably only 15% will ever get any actual hard investment dollars from an investor.
And how much time of a startup's time does it go in raising money versus developing a product?
Yeah, probably not as much as you think. It does take a lot of time, but my company, we're always raising money. Now, how active we are at that, we're having meetings every week with somebody that might be a potential investor. So we're able to do that. We've got our business guys on our team, and we've got our scientific guys, and that's what's good about having a team, especially entrepreneurs that are just one or two people, startups that are just one and two people. There's just not enough bodies there to get everything done. You are going to sacrifice time that you would spend on your startup out raising money, but I would say, if I'm going to put a number on it, less than 25% of my time is spent raising money. So,
and in the end, is it worth it?
Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but in the end, yes, it's definitely worth it.
So that was basically Wiley's opinion of the difference between entrepreneurs and startups. And being said that, so entrepreneurship is not just business, and it's not just startups. So entrepreneurship is a mindset, a drive to create something and to achieve results which will bring both satisfaction and profit. And not everybody can be an entrepreneur because it takes so much time and money and effort and dedication and sacrifice, but it is worth it in the end. And no matter if you are an entrepreneur owning a business or an entrepreneur owning a startup, you can consider yourself, I'm hoping you will consider yourself a backwater entrepreneur and continue to listen to this podcast. So, by the way, if you like this episode, like it, share it, subscribe. But we're on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes. I will leave you links below this episode. And hit me up with any questions you might have. I'll see you in the next episode of The Backwater Entrepreneur.